is with.
I would say it's a shrine.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And she came across as a very strong, very opinionated woman, I should say, very well-informed on political events. She was in her late 70s, so I really didn't expect that. But reading her book, I could understand how she had survived all the horrors and all the trials and tribulations and reached to this point.
I think that she's an agile octogenarian. I mean, physically as well as mentally. And I think she was exposed once they were rehabilitated and came back to Yerevan in 1954 after Stalin died. She was surrounded by the intellectual elite of Armenian literary society. And as such, I think that that was stimulating. And also, she met many interesting people in that society. There's a section a chapter in the book where Antranik Tsarukyan, who is well known to Western Armenians because his periodical Nayari was published out of Beirut, and Gürgen comes to her and says, Tsarukyan has arrived, Antonina. And of course, who's Tsarukyan? And she got to meet Tsarukyan, and he was very, very loyal to Mahari till the very end. And even after Mahari died, he came to visit Antonina. He was a very genuine, solid man, and I know he's very well respected. And so she was exposed to all of this, and I think that has kept her very agile-minded. And she's a reader, and there are books in her apartment. I mean, up to the ceiling.
She speaks excellent English.
And her English is excellent. Amazing. Yeah, but she was surprised at.
Yes. I mean, I didn't expect her to be so up to date on everything. It's really wonderful. And this is with this spirit she wrote her book, very furiously and with a brutal honesty. She tells the truth about the events and the people in power who had such a profound impact on the lives of millions of the people at the time. She describes the horrors and that she and her comrades have experienced at the hands of the Stalin's henchmen. And after Stalin's regime topples, the new leadership promises, she says in her book, freedom, but she says that did not come, that was only on paper, that was not realized. For years and years we walked in darkness, and she says there was no news in Izvestia, and there was no truth in Pravda. Those were newspapers aptly titled News and Truth.
Let me just ask you here, since you speak about Izvestia and Pravda, let me ask you, what does she think of the present government in Armenia?
She doesn't say too much about that, although she has hope. I think she says she has hope for the new government, for the young people.
She's being cautious about.
And she's being cautious, and I think that's what would you call that? A result of years of oppression. That people are careful.
Yeah, Ruth, when you write a book or when you publish a book, obviously you would like people to read about this. You would like to expose the book to the Armenians or listeners or whoever, anywhere in the world. Has this book been brought to the attention of the public? Was there any book event like the one on January the 25th? And what do people expect on January 25th?
Oh, January 25th is the first book
one.
event.
I see.
Yes.
First one.
And then we will have another one in Glendale, California at Abril Bookstore on February 5th. And then another one down at St. Mary's in Hollywood, Florida on the 20th of February. So all the snowbirds, be aware. And then again at St. David Armenian Church in Boca Raton on March 22nd.
Will you both?
I will be there.
That's a major undertaking. It's a fascinating undertaking.
We would like to make it available and known to the Armenian community in this country because I think it's an important book that describes, it's not about the genocide. We have read and heard a lot about the genocide, which is very important. Yes, absolutely. But this gives us a new perspective on the Armenian society and writers and the conditions under which they worked during the communist years.
Yes, and with my research, I found that many of the great writers, and Mahari, it has been said by scholars that he wrote one of the 10 best novels to come out of Soviet Armenia, and he should be a household word among Armenians, and the diasporan Armenians, for the most part, don't know whether he, like you put in the newsletter, whether he's a writer, a philanthropist, or
general or whoever.
Yes.
But let me ask you, what specifically, if I were to ask you one incident from all the many stories that you have written about or have heard about Mahari, which would you like to bring out?
Oh, his own reflection on his own life from his autobiography. He wrote 3 autobiographical books. 2 were published before he went into exile, and the 3rd he wrote on the threshold of youth during his exile after his marriage to Antonina in a little hut. We have a picture of it in the book. And in that he writes that he puts it so eloquently. I'd love to read the quote.
Do you have the quote?
Let me see if I have the quote here. Okay. I found it when I was doing the research originally for an article for Le Radio.
That's interesting because until you look for the quote, let me also mention what you had mentioned in one of your articles, Ruth, that we have been exposed to the life in Siberia through the movie of Jaklin that also depicted life in Siberia. There was a movie that the HBO presented a few years ago, and I don't think we know enough about the suffering of the many people who were exiled to Siberia in Stalinist purge.
We don't, but I have a friend in Armenia who told me when I was thinking of having this translated, and he said Armenia is not a market for this book because there isn't a person who doesn't have someone in their family who suffered similarly. But my thought was, this is not for an Armenian Hayastan market. This is for Armenian Americans who really are ignorant of Mahari and his value and his contribution, and therefore it behooves us not to share that information.
Jaklin, as Ruth looks for it, is there anything in closing? Is there something you would like to wrap up? We have to move to the news.
Yes, I would like to mention something, to quote her actually. Towards the end of her book, she writes, as a summation of her work, that my motto is to remain human everywhere and under any circumstances. And her goal was not only to tell us about her story with Mahari and the trials and tribulations she's been through, but she also wanted to make sure that the world is aware and knows about her comrades in fate and every single person that has suffered through these times. And she has remained true to herself. To this day, she has not wavered from her goal. She has not wavered from her
Ruth, you found a quote that maybe you can read and wrap up.
Yes. This is a quote from his autobiographical works that were written in 1963, and he died 69, so he was in pretty bad health at that time. And I quote, 60 years have been lived. If we consider that the conscious life begins at 7, and if we add to this the 7 years of orphanages and streets, and to these 14 years the period of 1936 to 54, there will remain to me 28 years.